attorney representing the Starfleet Judge Advocate here is going to get the first round of questions, and then basically the attorney for the admiral who is being investigated will get a chance to basically cross-examine.
Mm-hmm.
So let's do another Starfleet name generator. Let me see here. And uh, the attorney representing Starfleet JAG is a Klingon, dressed in the newly dressed in one of the new Alliance uniforms. Introduces himself as Khan. Says, uh, let me get Talia's full name here. Sorry, hang on.
Talia Aranis.
Yeah, I just found it. You are
Yep.
Lieutenant Talia Aranis, correct?
Correct.
Please tell the Board of Inquiry how you came to become the Copper Corsair.
I was included in a private meeting with Captain Santiago and Admiral uh, Whitman.
Oops, sorry, I clicked the wrong thing there.
Okay. And Admiral Whitman. Admiral Whitman was detailing out a plan that he wanted carried out to disrupt Zealand slaving, what we thought at the time were slaving operations. Um this that would supposedly give the Federation plausible deniability. And I was recommended for the position because I am Orion.
I see. What did this operation entail?
It entailed the use of a Orion ship, and the support of a Klingon intelligence cruiser, under the command of Colonel Maressa. And we would make raids on Zealand convoys, liberating any captive non-Zealand species.
What happened with these captives once they were brought into your custody, Talia? Or Lieutenant, I should say.
They were either resettled on another planet, or they were um given a ship and left to their own devices.
And whose command were you under while you were serving as the Copper Corsair?
Admiral Whitman's.
Directly.
Yes.
I see. Thank you. No further questions at this time. He goes to sit down, and a Benzite who is sitting at the defense table beside Admiral Whitman stands up, kind of straightens his uniform. Lieutenant, you said you were approached to become the Copper Corsair. Were you given an order, or did you volunteer for this assignment?
I believe the word is voluntold. The Admiral had given Captain Santiago the order to put together the operation, and Captain Santiago suggested my name given my background and that I would be the most uh, plausible pirate.
Why did Captain Santiago feel you would be the most plausible pirate?
Because I am Orion.
I see.
I
During...
have posed as an Orion slave girl and other sorts of things on our missions in the past, before we were under the command of Starfleet Intelligence.
I see. During the time when you say you were under Admiral Whitman's command, were you issued any orders that you found to be objectionable? Or questionable?
I felt the operation itself was if we were potentially to if the Zealand were to potentially figure out that the Federation was involved, it could be problematic. However, this was weighed against the moral reasoning at the time that we could not let the Zealand use sentient beings as they saw fit.
I see. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And there was also very little headway made in diplomatic relations with the Zealand at the time.
So, given your understanding at the time, did you have any reason to believe the orders given to you were illegal?
The legality of the orders, I'm admittedly not sure on, because it is my understanding that we are not to interfere in the sovereign affairs of other species.
So you weren't sure if it was a legal order or not?
Legal orders are so murky when it comes to Starfleet intelligence, wouldn't you say?
I wouldn't know, Lieutenant. I have never worked in Starfleet intelligence. No further questions. Uh, Sarah, if you would like, at this point, since we have at least two other off-screen witnesses, as it were, we've got
Mm-hmm.
Varric and we've got Marissa. How
Mm-hmm.
would you feel about playing the attorneys and having me as the witness?
I have no idea how to play an attorney.
Well, shit. You kind of
Is
just saw though, right? Like just like
I know,
inquisitive.
but I'm not really good at coming up with questions.
Um, could I use Facebook to feed you some questions as they come up?
Sure.
Okay, I know this is a little
Because
awkward, but
there's a reason I've never, ever, ever wanted to be a lawyer, and it's
that's
shit like
fair.
this.
I
So,
shit. I wonder if Brian's around. Like, it would be have him come in here and do this, but uh, okay. So actually, we'll do this. Let's have you as
I can play the other characters.
okay. Well, let's do that then. Let's do
Okay.
that. Um, my only concern is there may be questions that you wouldn't know the answers to, but we can kind of backfill. if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So, yeah, we'll have Captain Santiago next. Uh, and once again, the Klingon attorney approaches the witness stand after the oaths have been administered. Captain Santiago, tell me how you came to be involved in Operation Copper Corsair.
I was first contacted by Admiral Whitman about a possible in counterinsurgency operation against the Zealand and their slaving operations. That he had come up with a plan that would give the Federation plausible deniability.
I see. How did you go about carrying out this operation? What was your level of involvement?
I was ordered to volunteer a member of my crew for the operation. Um, I did not have any input on the nature of the operation or how it would be carried out. The crew member that I selected would have most of the authority on the ground, so to speak. But the order to create the operation came from Whitman himself.
I see. Now, I've received documents outlining the scope of the operation, and several ships were involved, including one Klingon intelligence vessel, an Orion battlecruiser, and your own vessel using its holographic projectors to replicate the image of an Orion battlecruiser. Is that correct?
That would be correct.
What use
I'm
of...
assuming that's correct.
Yes. Yeah, and that's why I introduced it as the prosecutor, so that you wouldn't have a reason to really doubt it.
Right.
Uh, what were the use of force restrictions, or what were the rules of engagement for the Shroud?
For the Shroud, we were not to engage unless necessary.
So, least effective, or least use of force, as less use of force as would be necessary to accomplish the mission.
Yes, on the part of the Shroud and the Volk. However, lethal force was authorized for Talia and her team.
I see. Thank you. No further questions. Um, Once again, the Benzite steps forward, his name being Kohod Teak. Captain, did you inquire as to the legality of the order when Admiral Whitman presented it?
I think my words were, who the hell are we to do anything about it? And I was shut up.
I see. Do you have any written objection that was forwarded to Admiral Whitman's office? I leave this entirely up to you, Sarah. This will be...
Okay. Yes, in fact, I accepted these orders under protest.
And just to be clear, Captain, why did you protest the order?
Because I felt like we were not supposed to be poking at the hornet's nest.
And the Benzite kind of looks confused for a moment. It's this Earth idiom?
Yes, and very appropriate given the species we were dealing with.
Ah, antagonizing the Zealand, I see. During this during this operation, did you engage any Zealand ships, either as the Shroud directly or disguised as an Orion cruiser?
Yes, several cargo and transport vessels were engaged by the Orion battlecruiser.
What was the outcome of those engagements?
The crew usually ended up dead, and the non-Zealand species were released, either onto a planet or onto a ship of their own.
After the operation was underway, did you issue any further challenges to Admiral Whitman?
I, after the operation was revealed to the captain of the USS Dauntless, the flagship of the Carina Nebula Task Force, I put in a written note to Whitman that Captain West was most displeased with the current state of affairs.
I see. And thank you for bringing up the Dauntless. How did that ship become involved in what was up until this point an intelligence operation?
The the Dauntless received the communication from from a convoy that was supposedly from the Copper Corsair. Also, the commander of the Dauntless is a personal friend of Thalia's, and she noticed her missing from a joint senior staff dinner.
So Captain West put two and two together to use another human idiom.
She is a smart woman.
Indeed. Did you try to discourage her involvement once she became aware that one of your crew members was missing?
She didn't want to get involved.
And
She thought that the operation was ill advised, but because it was not something that was under her command, she felt like she couldn't do anything about it.
I see.
I
Thank you.
do believe she made her displeasure known up her chain of command, however.
Yes, I believe she did. No further questions. Permission to re engage the witness. Proceed? Captain, once the Dauntless crew became involved with the operation, once Captain West became involved, how did the operation proceed from there?
It was on a case by case basis. Raids were made on targets of opportunity, given the intelligence that we had on Zealand freighter movements. We very much did our best to involve engagement with Zealand warships. So we focused on the outlying shipping lanes.
And the operation ultimately concluded. What can you tell me about that conclusion?
It's concluded very suddenly when the enemy agent known as Sloan took over the IKS Volk and destroyed it. And we were forced to abandon the operation.
I see. Thank you, Captain. No further questions.
Thank you.
Uh, the judge looks at Kahad for a moment. Kahad just kind of shakes his head to indicate he doesn't have any questions. No further questions, Your Honor. And judge says, "Thank you, Captain."
Of course.
Next, the Jag calls Colonel Maressa to the stand.
And she takes the stand.
And the whole oaths are administered thing. And Sarah, I'm gonna let you like freewheel here a little bit. So,
Okay.
uh, Colonel, tell us how you became involved with Operation Copper Corsair.
It was a mandate passed down from Alliance Command from Starfleet Intelligence.
So this went upward from Starfleet intelligence through Alliance channels.
That I do not know for sure. However, I do believe it came from Starfleet Intelligence, requesting Alliance support because of the lack of intelligence vessels in the area.
I see. Did you volunteer for this assignment, or were you ordered to do so by Klingon intelligence?
The order came from Alliance Command, but I do believe the order originated from Starfleet.
But it was an order.
Yes.
What was the Vox role in Operation Copper Corsair?
The Valk was the main support ship. We would ensure that Talia and her team would board the shipping vessel, and then we would facilitate her escape.
Did you have any moral or legal concerns about taking on this operation?
Ah, Starfleet is usually the ones that are concerned with the morals. I was following their lead.
I see. What was the outcome of the operation, from your perspective, Colonel?
We were able to liberate a few ships in the time that the operation was active. However, the agent known as Sloan took over my ship and destroyed it. Or actually, I destroyed it because it was irreparably compromised.
Thank you, Colonel. No further questions. The Benzite stands up and approaches and says, "Colonel, would it be fair to say that from a Klingon intelligence standpoint, this would have been an entirely above-board operation?"
Klingon intelligence has a different standard than Starfleet.
So that's a yes?
I'm saying it's comparing a targ to a collar beast.
The records and logs from the Dauntless indicate that you worked for a time with Commander Shiana Darrow. How did she become involved in this operation?
Hmm, I don't know. She worked with us on one operation, the one where Sloane intercepted my vessel. I believe she was there to because of the Sloane threat. I cannot comment any further.
Of course, Colonel. No further questions. And the judge says, "Thank you, Colonel. You may step down."
And because Marissa is telepathic, what is she getting
From who?
off of from the defense?
Who precisely is she trying to read?
The defense counselor.
The counselor. Okay. Uh, let's find out. Actually, give me a moment to look up her character sheet. I have also updated her uniform. Let's see. Uh, he keeps his cards rather close to his vest, but at this point he's just kind of looking to find the facts. Like he's not really in an adversarial mode at this point.
Okay.
And like the level of evidence required to establish a board of inquiry is somewhat lower and less formal than it would be for a formal court martial. Uh, but the defense is going to have its own witnesses to call in too, probably, who can
Mhm.
basically attest to, hey, this was in fact a legal order, or, you know, here's the paper trail, basically.
Mhm.
So, anything else?
Um, not that I know of.
Okay, well, we will stop the